I never thought I'd bury my own son twice, once in the cold earth of a Pennsylvania cemetery, and again in the legal graves my parents dug with their greedy hands. But there I was, Adeline Harper, staring down the barrel of their betrayal like it was just another Tuesday in this godforsaken American dream gone sour. The funeral had been a farce, empty pews in that drafty Episcopalian church in Bryn Mawr. My parents nowhere in sight because, as my mother later confessed over a glass of Chardonnay, "Darling, we had a brunch reservation at the club." And now, not even a week after little Ethan's casket was lowered, they were pounding on my door, eyes gleaming with entitlement, demanding I hand over his trust fund, the one I'd scrimped and saved for since the day he was born, to bankroll my baby sister's fairy tale wedding in the Hamptons. It hit me then, like a freight train through the fog of grief. This wasn't about family. This was about them. Always them. The Harpers of old money and older sins, who viewed me as the disposable branch on their polished family tree. I'd taken the fall for their secrets before, covering up Daddy's affair with a pool boy when I was 16, swallowing the blame for Mother's shoplifting spree at Neiman Marcus to keep the facade intact.
But Ethan, my boy,
with his freckles and endless questions about why the stars twinkled?
no.
That was the line they crossed, and I was done being the sacrificial lamb. I slammed the door in their faces that rainy afternoon, the echo of it ringing like a gunshot in my hollow chest. But as I leaned against the wood, sliding to the floor amid the dust bunnies and unopened sympathy cards, a darker plan uncoiled in my mind. Revenge isn't a dish best served cold. It's a slow poison, brewed in the quiet hours when the world sleeps and the guilty toss in their silk sheets. And mine? It would be American as apple pie, litigious, relentless, and laced with just enough controversy to make the tabloids salivate. That night, as thunder rattled the windows of my creaky Victorian in Westchester, I dug out the old family Bible from the attic. Not the one with the gold-embossed cover we paraded at Easter services, but the dog-eared relic from Grandma's side, the one that whispered truths the Harpers buried under layers of wasp denial. Flipping through brittle pages yellowed like old regrets, I found it, the entry scrawled in faded ink, dated 1985. Adeline Rose Harper, born to Eleanor and Victor, but carried by surrogate Mary Lou Jenkins, blood of the Jenkins line. Surrogate. The words slithered off the page like a serpent. I'd always known I was the odd one out, dark hair in a sea of blondes, a stubborn streak that didn't bend to Father's golf club lectures. But this was the secret they'd chiseled into my bones, making me the scapegoat for their youthful indiscretions. The miracle baby they paraded while Mary Lou rotted in obscurity, her own dreams drowned in cheap gin and minimum wage shifts. Ethan's death had cracked me open, but this revelation, it forged me anew. He'd passed not from the leukemia we'd fought tooth and nail, chemo drips and midnight fevers, but from a tainted blood transfusion at the family clinic, the one father generously funded through his pharmaceutical connections. I'd signed the consent forms in a haze, trusting the Harper name like it was gospel.
But now,
piecing it together with a bottle of bourbon and a laptop glowing in the dark, I uncovered the thread. Father's boardroom buddies at PharmaCorp had fast-tracked an experimental drug, cutting corners on trials to beat a competitor. Ethan was the canary in their coal mine, and I'd been too blinded by grief to see the cage. The next morning, I called my lawyer, not the family fixer who'd buried scandals for decades, but a scrappy public defender type from South Philly, the kind who smelled blood in the water and swam toward it. "Adeline," he said over the crackle of a bad connection, his voice like gravel under tires. "This trust fund grab? It's elder abuse in reverse. We countersue for wrongful death, emotional distress, the works. But you gotta go nuclear. Leak it to the press. Make M infamous. Nuclear. The word tasted like fallout. I thought of my sister, Lila, the golden child, scrolling Instagram in her Pilates perfect life, oblivious to the rot beneath her Lululemon leggings. Her wedding to that hedge fund douchebag, Chase, was set for Memorial Day weekend. All-white tents on Daddy's estate. String quartet warbling Pachelbel's cannon while the Atlantic crashed like applause. The trust fund, Ethan's legacy, was earmarked for her dream day.
Over my dead body.
Or Ethan's, for that matter. By noon, I'd wired the Bible page to a stringer at the Inquirer, anonymized but juicy enough to hook. Heiress's dark secret, swapped at birth? The headline wrote itself. Then I hit up Mary Lou's daughter, my half-sister, technically via a Facebook message that felt like tossing a Molotov into dry grass. We need to talk. About blood. Her reply came swift. Holy shit.
Addie.
Meet me at the diner on Route 30. Bring bourbon. We met under the buzzing neon of Mel's Diner. Rain sluicing off the awning like tears the Harpers never shed. Cousin, half. Whatever. She looked like me, but weathered. Lines etched from factory shifts and a string of bad men. Mama always said you were hers, she murmured, sliding a mug of coffee my way. Black as midnight. Died whispering it. Drunk on regret. Your folks paid her off, 20 grand and a one-way ticket to nowhere. But she kept the letters.
The tests.
Proof. The word was a weapon, sharp and cold. We pored over yellowed envelopes in the vinyl booth, grease from the grill mingling with the scent of damp earth. DNA reports. Notarized. Affidavits from the midwife who'd looked the other way for a crisp Benjamin. And there, buried deepest, the clinic records, subpoena-worthy, linking father's PharmaCorp slush fund to Ethan's fatal dose. They framed you for the consent, she said, eyes hardening. Made it look like maternal negligence. Kept the real docs under lock and key. Framed. The injustice burned hotter than the coffee scalding my tongue. I'd lost my license as a social worker after the oversight, blackballed from every nonprofit in the tri-state area. While Lila jetted to Ibiza for bachelorette bashes, I scraped by on temp gigs, Ethan's ghost haunting every eviction notice. Enough. By dessert, apple pie a la mode. Because, irony, I'd recruited her to the cause. We're the black sheep now, I told her. Time to shear the flock. The plan crystallized over the next weeks. A spiderweb of spite spun in stolen moments. First, the slow drip to the media. Anonymous tips to TMZ about the trust fund tug-of-war, painting Lila as the spoiled bridezilla and my parents as heartless hyenas. The headlines bloomed like bruises. Philly elite snubs dead grandkid for nuptials. Protests erupted outside the country club. Grief counselors from my old network, wielding signs like "Justice for Ethan, not cash for champagne." Father called. Voice oily as ever. Adeline, this tantrum is beneath us. Sign the papers, and we'll make it right. Therapy. Perhaps. Therapy. As if Prozac could stitch the gash. I hung up, then forwarded the call log to my lawyer. Evidence of coercion. Next. The social sabotage. I hacked Lila's wedding registry. Nothing fancy. Just a ghost account on Williams-Sonoma. Inflating orders for monogrammed caviar spoons till the vendors balked at the bill. Chase's firm got an anonymous dossier on father's philanthropy, complete with redacted emails hinting at insider trading. The SEC perked up like a dog with a bone. But the real venom? The body swap. Not literal, no sci-fi hocus-pocus, but metaphorical. A psychic sleight of hand. I'd become the vessel for Mary Lou's rage, channeling her silenced fury through my veins. At night, I'd practice in the mirror, her drawl slipping into my accent. Stories of Milltown hardships I'd never lived but now owned. When I crashed Lila's final dress fitting, uninvited, of course, in a thrift store sheath that screamed proletariat, I didn't yell. I whispered. Nice gown, sis. Shame about the bloodstains on the family crest. Her face crumpled like wet tissue. The seamstress frozen mid-pin. What the hell? Addie? This is my day. But I leaned in, breath ghosting her ear. Your day? Ethan's was stolen. And so was mine. The room erupted, mother swooping in like a harpy. Father on speed dial, but the seed was planted. Whispers followed Lila through bridal expos. Is she even Harper? That surrogate scandal. Controversy crackled like static. Pundits on Fox and CNN dissected it, entitled Elite versus the Working Class Underdog, classic American tragedy. Feminists hailed me as a whistleblower. Conservatives decried me as a vengeful harpy. Death threats clogged my inbox. But so did donations, GoFundMe for Ethan's memorial garden swelling past six figures. Power shifted, subtle as a tide. Father offered a settlement, half the fund, plus a gag order. I countered with a press conference, flanked by Mary Lou's daughter and a gaggle of activists, unveiling the Bible page under camera flashes. The climax brewed that spring equinox, winds howling off the Schuylkill like banshees. Lila's wedding eve. I slipped into the estate under cover of twilight, ghosting through gardens I'd played in as a kid, now choked with white roses for her pure union. The safe in Father's study, culmination his goddamn Harvard graduation year. Arrogant as ever. Inside. The original's clinic files. Payoff ledgers. Even a lock of Ethan's hair from his first trim. Tucked like a talisman. Alarms wailed as I snapped photos. Heart jackhammering. Footsteps thundered security. Or family. Didn't matter. I bolted. Documents clutched like contraband, leaping the hedge into the neighbor's yard. Sirens wailed distant, but I was already in my beat-up Civic, tires spinning gravel as I peeled toward the dawn. The wedding? A debacle for the ages. As Lila walked the aisle late, puffy-eyed from all-nighters fielding cancellations, the Inquirer chopper buzzed overhead. Dropping the scoop, Harper airs deadly secret. Pharma cover-up kills innocent boy. Guests scattered like roaches. Chase bolted mid-vows, muttering about PR nightmares. Mother fainted into the hydrangeas. Father snarling into his phone about lawyers and libel.
But the twist?
It gutted me deeper than any blade. Holed up in a Fleabag motel, off-I, 95. Poring over the pilfered files by flashlight, I found the reversal. The tainted blood wasn't Father's doing. It was mine. In my delirium post-diagnosis, I'd greenlit the experimental trial, not out of trust in the family machine, but to chase a miracle, desperate enough to sign away ethics for hope. The docs were there, my looping signature bold as brass. I'd borne the sin.
Not them.
The surrogate swap? A red herring. Mary Lou's fabrication to claw back dignity in death. Betrayal inverted. A Mobius strip of guilt. I could have burned it all. Let the pyre consume us. Instead, I drove to the cemetery, Ethan's stone gleaming under sodium lamps. Kneeling in the mud, I whispered apologies to the wind, to him, to the sister I'd poisoned, to the parents who'd skipped the funeral not from malice, but paralysis, their own grief warped by decades of denial. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. I wired the files to the DA. Anonymous tip for the pharma probe. No more covers. Then, a letter to Lila. Wear the dress. It's yours. Ethan's fund? Split it, half for your life, half for his light. We all swapped pieces of ourselves that day. Happy? Tragic?
You tell me.
As I walked away from the grave, the weight lifted, but the shadows lingered. Revenge tasted like ash, but freedom? That was the real American hustle, forged in fire.
Debatable to the end.
You think revenge ends with the reveal?
Nah.
That's just intermission in this twisted tableau of family folklore. Adeline, the black swan in the Harper flock, woke up that morning after the heist with a taste of rust in my mouth, like I'd chewed on the wrought iron gates of my childhood. The motel room smelled of stale smoke and regret, the kind that clings to your skin like cheap perfume from a dive bar in Fishtown. Ethan's files splayed across the sagging bedspread, each page an indictment not just of them, but of me. My signature, that frantic scrawl from the hospital waiting room, stared back like a Judas kiss. I'd authorized the trial, chasing shadows of cures in boardroom backrooms, believing father's connections were salvation, not snares. But here's the rub. Even knowing that, the fury didn't fizzle. It morphed, slithering into something uglier, more intimate, a vendetta against the mirror. I showered under lukewarm dribble, scrubbing till my skin pinked, trying to wash away the Skigot's ghost who'd hijacked my narrative. Mary Lou's daughter, cousin Riley, let's call her, texted coordinates for a meet, a dive in Kensington, where the owl rumbles like God's own migraine and hipsters rub elbows with holdouts from the steel mill days. She was nursing a youngling when I slid into the booth, her work-calloused hands dwarfing the pint glass. You look like hell, Addie, she said. No preamble. Sliding a shot my way, Jameson.
Neat.
Because mercy's for suckers. Saw the chopper feed. Lila's big day tanked harder than the '08 crash. You're doing? I knocked back the liquor. Fire blooming in my gut.
Ours.
But it twists. The files. I signed off. Ethan's death, my call. In the end, the confession hung heavy, thicker than the fry oil haze from the kitchen. Riley's eyes narrowed, not with pity, but calculation, the Jenkins steel, unbent by Harper's or hubris. Bullshit they let you, she countered, voice low, edged with the accent of forgotten mill towns. Your pops greased the docks, buried the risks. Mama's letters say they did the same to her, promised the moon for carrying you, then yanked the ladder. You're just the latest patsy in their puppet show. She pulled a manila envelope from her overalls, the kind stained with motor oil and manifestos. Inside, more ammo. Bank records tracing hush money from Victor Harper's slush fund to clinics across the state. Payoffs to silence whistleblowers on faulty trials. And there, circled in red, a deposit to my own account.
Post Ethan.
Consolation prize, Riley spat. For the good daughter, who took the hit. The good daughter. The phrase curdled like milk left in the sun. I'd always been that, the fixer, the forgiver, mopping up mother's martini-fueled meltdowns or father's business trips that left lipstick on collars and alibis on me. Ethan was my rebellion, born late to a starter marriage that fizzled like a dud firework. His dad, a musician who ghosted faster than a bad Tinder date. But the Harpers embraced us. Or so I thought. Grandpa's stock tips, Grandma's heirloom pearls for my someday wedding that never came. Lies. All of it. Veneered with old money gloss. We plotted over greasy cheesesteaks. The plan evolving like a virus. Mutate or die. No more lone wolf leaks. Time for a coalition of the damned. Riley looped in her union buddies, ex-pharma techs with grudges and green visors, while I cold-called grief groups from my social work days, turning sympathy into shrapnel. Operation Black Sheep, we dubbed it. Toasting with watered-down drafts. Step 1. Flood the wedding aftermath with FOIAs, demanding every scrap on the clinic. Step 2. Crash the Harper Charity Gala. That annual schmooze fest at the Philadelphia Museum of Art where elites patted themselves on the back for writing checks with one hand while screwing the needy with the other. The gala loomed 2 weeks out. A black-tie bacchanal under Rodin's bronzes. Champagne flutes clinking like false teeth. I rented a gown from a vintage shop in Rittenhouse. Emerald silk. Cut to kill. Because if you're going down, do it fabulous. Riley and her crew posed as caterers, slipping USBs loaded with redacted files into VIP purses.
Me?
I cornered father on the balcony, city lights sprawling below like a glittering trap. Adeline, he sighed, loosening his Hermes tie, breath sour with scotch. This vendetta, it's unbecoming. Lila's devastated, the wedding's postponed. The press is a circus. Come home. We can fix it. Therapy, as I said. Or Phuket. Your pick. I laughed, a brittle sound swallowed by the schoolgirl's murmur. Fix it? Like you fixed Ethan's transfusion? Or Mom's surrogacy fairy tale? I thrust the bank statement under his nose, illuminated by my phone's glow. His face slackened, not shock, but recognition, the mask slipping to reveal the puppeteer beneath. That was Mercy, he murmured, eyes darting like cornered vermin. Mary Lou was unstable, booze. Men. We saved you from that trailer park fate. And the fund? It's family money. Adeline. Blood or not?
Blood.
The word ignited the powder keg. Ethan's blood's on your hands, Victor. And mine? It's Jenkins Inc. Not Harper Gold. Security materialized then. Burly shadows in penguin suits. But not before I palmed his phone unlocked. Because trust is the first casualty in war. By the time they escorted me out, past gasps and camera phones, I'd forwarded his text to the stringer. Propositions to chase his ex. Bribes to silence a junior exec on the trial. The fallout was biblical. Morning headlines screamed pharma patriarch's dirty secrets, from affairs to fatal fixes. Protests swelled outside Harper Holdings HQ. Union chants mingling with chants from Moms for Justice. Women I'd counseled, now wielding placards with Ethan's face. Lila called. Voice cracking over voicemail. Addie.
Why?
I loved him. We all did.
This.
It's destroying us. Destroying. The word echoed as I paced my apartment, walls closing like a vice. Loved him? Where were they at the grave? Then, brunch. Indeed. But doubt crept in, insidious as damp rot. Was I the villain now? Wielding grief like a cudgel? Riley sensed it at our next huddle. A warehouse squad in Fishtown reeking of spray paint and solidarity. Second thoughts, she prodded, rolling a joint with mechanic's fingers. Twists, I admitted, exhaling smoke that curled like questions. The files say I signed, but the dates. They overlap with your mom's payoff. Coincidence. We cross-reference till dawn. Caffeine and conspiracy fueling us. Buried in the metadata, father's digital fingerprints, forging my consent amid the chaos. Not mercy, a maneuver to shift blame, ensuring the family fortress against lawsuits. Vindicated. We escalated. The Gala leak birthed a class action suit, ex-pharma families joining the fray, their stories a chorus of crushed hopes. I testified incognito at a state hearing, voice modulated through a cheap filter, dropping bombs on Victor's empire. Stocks tanked, the club revoked memberships. Mother descended into Valium dreams, whispering to ghosts on Park Avenue shrinks couches. Yet the tension coiled tighter, a noose of my own making. Lila showed up unannounced one muggy June evening, rain-soaked and raw. No designer armor, just jeans and a hoodie. Ethan's old Phillies cap shadowing eyes red as root beer floats. Talk, she demanded, dripping on my threshold. We ended up on the fire escape, passing a thermos of spiked tea. City hum below like a lullaby for the lost. I didn't know, she confessed, voice small. About the surrogate? The trial. Dad said it was an accident, bad batch. No fault. And the fund? Mom pushed it. Said it was reparations for you losing Ethan. God. Addie. I was selfish. Blind.
Blind.
We'd all been. Swaddled in privilege's fog. But her tears cracked something in me. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a fissure. You skipped the funeral, I said. The accusation flat as roadkill. Brunch over blood. She flinched. We couldn't face it. Seeing him.
Gone.
Because of us. Dad forbade it, said it'd break Mother. Cowardice.
Yeah.
But love? Twisted.
But there.
Twisted love. The phrase haunted as she left. A hug lingering like ozone before a storm. Was revenge unraveling me? Or revealing the threads we'd all pulled too hard? The climax loomed. Father's arraignment. A media circus in federal court. Marble halls echoing with flashbulbs and fury. I slipped in back row. Incognito in a wig and shades. Riley's hand steady on mine. As Victor took the stand, silver fox unruffled, spinning yarns of regrettable oversights, I rose, shedding disguise like snakeskin. Objection, I called, voice slicing the hush. The surrogate speaks. Gasps rippled, bailiff froze. But before the gavel fell, my phone buzzed, Riley's text, incoming. Check email. Heart slamming. I opened it, a video, time-stamped wedding eve. Father, in his study, confessing to a hidden camera, Riley's plant, not just the forgery, but the swap's truth. No surrogate scam. Mary Lou was a willing ghostwriter, fabricating the tale for a cut of the pot, dying bitter when it dried up. And Ethan's death? Collateral in a larger game. PharmaCorp's bid to bury a whistleblower, me. Unwittingly, via the consent I'd signed clean. The reversal hit like vertigo. I'd been played by phantoms, living a lie scripted in greed. As court erupted, Victor Frog marched, eyes locking mine in betrayal's ballet. I bolted, not for escape, but epiphany. Revenge? A mirror maze, reflecting monsters we birthed. The courtroom emptied like a punctured lung, spectators spilling into the granite corridors of the federal building, buzzing with the electricity of scandal freshly cracked open. I stood there. Adeline Harper, no. Jenkins, or whatever fractured label fit, amid the chaos. The video still looping in my mind like a bad acid trip at a Grateful Dead revival. Father's confession. Captured in grainy glory. Mary Lou cooked the surrogate yarn for leverage. But the girl's no blood of mine. Ethan's mishap? Clean kill. Adeline's signature seals it. Family closes ranks.
Clean kill.
The euphemism slithered. Cold as a snake in Eden. Riley found me slumped on a bench outside, rain pattering on the awning like impatient fingers. "We got him," she said, triumphant. But her eyes searched mine, wary, like spotting a storm cloud on the horizon. Video's gold. DA salivating. PharmaCorp's board is in panic mode. Gold. It should have glittered, but it tarnished on my tongue. "It's bullshit," I whispered, handing her the phone. "Watch." Her face cycled through shock. Then fury pure. Unfiltered. The kind forged in assembly lines and empty promises. "That bitch," she hissed, meaning her own mother. The ghost who'd spun fables from regret. Sold us both for a payday. But Victor. He twisted it into a noose. Twisted. The word encapsulated the Harpers, masters of the corkscrew lie, turning truth into pretzels palatable to their palate. We drove back to the city in silence, wipers slapping rhythm like a metronome to my unraveling. Kensington streets blurred, boarded row houses, murals of forgotten heroes. The L screeching overhead like a verdict deferred. At her squat, we cracked beers on the fire escape, city lights winking conspiratorially. "What's next?" she asked, clinking bottles. "Burn it down? Or build from ash?" "Build." The notion felt foreign, like trying on someone else's skin. I'd spent months, years, as the Avenger, bow drawn on shadows that proved smoke. Ethan's face haunted the periphery. Not accusatory, but quizzical. "Mama, why the fight if peace is the prize?" Kids cut through adult bullshit like butter knives through fog. Next morning, I called Lila. No games, just raw coffee. Neutral ground. The reading terminal.
Noon.
She arrived early, bundled in a trench coat too big for her frame. Shadows under eyes like bruises from a bender. We grabbed stools at a pierogi stand, steam rising between us like a veil. "The video," she started, voice threadbare.
"Dad's done."
Indictments flying, RICO charges. Even. Mom's catatonic, won't leave the Valium cocoon.
Done.
The finality echoed hollow. "And you?" I probed, fork spearing a dumpling, sauce dripping like unspoken sins. She shrugged, a gesture small as surrender. "Chase bailed," said toxic brand. "Weddings vapor, friends ghosted." Turns out, when the tiara slips, the court jesters scatter. A ghost of a smile, bitter as black coffee. But Ethan. I replay the funeral skip every night. Brunch was a lie. We were at the club, drowning in gin, too gutless to grieve. Dad orchestrated it. "Protect the image," he said.
Protect.
From what? Love. Love. Again. That thorny bloom. I reached across, hand covering hers, calloused from my temp scrub shifts, hers soft from spa days, now obsolete. We all protected ghosts.
Me.
Most of all. The swap? Fiction. Your blood's mine. Lila. But the real crime? Letting Ethan's light dim for our darkness. Tears welled. Unchecked, American weepies have nothing on sibling schisms. We talked till the market thinned, Unspooling the spool. Mother's miscarriages before me. The pressure cooker of legacy. Father's climb from mid-level exec to corner office. Ethics jettisoned like ballast. Ethan's trust fund? Not greed's spawn, but a band-aid on their guilt, funneling it to Lila's wedding, a desperate deflection. Normalcy over nightmare. By dusk, we'd forged a pact, not vengeance, but verdict. Joint statement to the press. The Harpers implore justice, not judgment. For Ethan, for all lost to corporate shadows. I fronted it, voice steady under Klieg lights outside the courthouse. Riley and Lila flanking like mismatched sentinels. The twist? No bombshells. Just truth. My signature reel. But coerced in crisis, father's machinations the multiplier. PharmaCorp crumbled, CEOs indicted, settlements flooding like biblical rains. The aftermath unfolded in fragments, mosaic of mending. Father pled out 10 years. White-collar wing at Club Fed. Golf on weekends. Mother surfaced, fragile as rice paper, enrolling in grief circles I'd once facilitated. You were right, darling, she murmured over tea at my place. Ethan's drawings taped to the fridge like talismans. We skipped the boy to skip the pain. Cowardice.
Pure.
Cowardice. I'd worn it too. Body swapped with my own better self, the Adeline who chose hope over hate. Riley and I launched a foundation from the fun scraps, Ethan's Echo. Advocacy for trial transparency. Low-income clinics audited by fire. Lila Dovin. Trading socialite scrolls for spreadsheets. Her wedding dress donated to a prom drive for foster kids. But endings? They're debates, not declarations. 6 months on. Father's appeal hearing loomed. A rematch in the ring of regret. I testified again, not as avenger, but architect of amends. Punish the crime, I urged the judge. A stern bird of a woman with eagle eyes. But spare the soul. Victor Harper built empires on bones. Let him dismantle his own in quiet. She nodded. Gavel falling like a guillotine stayed. Reduced sentence. Community service in the very clinics he'd tainted. Controversy erupted. Op-eds decrying, elite elbow. Activists crying sellout.
Me?
I walked out into Philly's crisp fall. Leaves crunching underfoot like brittle apologies. Lila linking arms. Riley trailing with a wry grin. Had I won? Revenge's ledger balanced in blood ink. But grace tipped the scale. Ethan's stone now bore a plaque. Light unswapped, forever ours. I visit weekly. Whispering updates. The foundation's first grant. Lila's engagement to a teacher real. Ringless. Road trip vows. My reinstatement, social work. This time with teeth. Yet shadows linger. U-shaped hooks in the psyche. Nights. I dream the swap anew, not bodies, but burdens. What if I'd buried the files? Let Lila's wedding bloom on tainted petals? Tragic? Maybe. Happy? In the margins. American as it gets, messy, debatable. A tension that hums like power lines over prairies. As winter bites, I pen this, not confession, but cautionary. Betrayal's a boomerang. Secret swamps that swallow whole. But from the muck, sometimes, lotuses. Or weeds, thorny and tenacious. You decide, reader.
Me?
I'm done swapping. This body's mine scars, sins, and all.